Welcome back to the Binge Watchers, and today we're counting down 10 times Chicago PD went way too far. Before we get into the video, hit that like and subscribe button real quick, and let's get into it. At number 10, we have Antonio throwing Ava's kidnapper out the window, and this one's crazy. By this point, Antonio is already a complete mess. His life is falling apart, he's spiraling, and once Ava gets dragged into the mess, he's fully lost it. So when he finally gets his hands on the guy responsible, there is no self-control for what happens next. He beats the living out of him and throws him out the window. Like, bro, I get it. Your daughter was in danger, emotions are high, stakes are high, but you still cannot do that. You are a cop. There is no version of police work where launching a man out a window counts as doing your job, and that's what makes this one wild. The show knows Antonio's broken in that moment, so they kind of want you to understand, oh, he did that because, you know, he's going through it and stuff, but that doesn't excuse what he did. He's a cop. At number 9, we have Voit, Antonio, and Jules going way too far on Popo's guy over Diego. This one is old school Chicago PD chaos. Diego gets kidnapped, everyone's panicking, and instead of just doing actual police work, Voit and Antonio start treating the whole situation like rules do not exist anymore. They grab Popo's guy, start roughing him up, and then the whole thing gets dark real fast. And this is one of those scenes where you can already see exactly what kind of show Chicago PD wants to. Because instead of somebody stepping in and saying, hey, we're still cops, we have rules to follow, everyone's just not. Let's just keep pushing it until somebody talks. And I get why Antonio was losing it. His son got taken. Of course he's not thinking clearly. That's kind of the problem. As a cop on the side, you don't step aside and say, hey bro, you're not thinking clearly, let me take over this case for you. But nah, they all just said, yeah, we're gonna take this far. At number 8, we have Burgess losing the baby after the attack. Now this one's not brutal in the same way as some of the other scenes on this list, but it still has to be here because this was just cruel. And I mean this from a writing standpoint. Burgess has already been going through way too much on this show, and then after that attack, the episode ends with her losing the baby. And it's one of those moments where you just kind of sit there like, damn, did they really have to take it there too? Because Chicago PD doesn't even try to soften the blow. There's no big speech, no dramatic save, no fake hopeful ending. It just happens and the show leaves you there with it. That's what makes it hit so hard. It's not over the top, it's just heavy. And honestly, this is one of those moments where the show went too far emotionally for the characters. Like, as a writer, like, damn, bro, that's dark. At number 7, we have Voit cutting Baker's ears. Yeah, sounds crazy. This is one of those classic Voit scenes where the man isn't even pretending to care about procedure anymore. He wants information and he's angry and he's gonna do it the Voit way. And that's what makes Voit so crazy on the show. He doesn't just bend the rules a little bit. When he goes there, he really goes there. Cutting a guy's ears? Like, what are we doing? We're cops. Like, Chicago PD really likes acting like Voit is this gritty, effective anti-hero, but sometimes the man is just straight up committing torture. And this show kind of counts on the fact that the audience likes him enough to just roll with it. But we cannot dismiss that. He's a cop. You cannot be out here mutilating suspects just because you want information. You're going way too far. At number 6, we have Voit using the chimney poker on Sarah's kidnapper. And this is exactly what I mean when I say Voit does not do a little too far. He does all the way too far. Because once a kid is involved, once it gets personal, once Voit decides the system is moving way too slow, it's over. He's not interested in warrants, process, or anything like that. He just wants results. And if somebody has to suffer to get those results, he does not care. So when he uses the chimney poker on Sarah's kidnapper, it's one of those scenes we're just watching like, yeah, can we take away the man's badge? Like, yeah, he's a good cop. Is this also making him a good cop? I don't know, man. But then Chicago PD's writers do this thing where they make the bad guy seem so awful that, okay, maybe we'll let it slide. But no matter how bad he is, you have to remember the fact that you're a cop and have rules to follow. Yeah, crazy. At number 5, we have Voit and Antonio using chain wrap fists in the Diego storyline. This is another one where early Chicago PD was just out of control, because the Diego storyline already had Antonio spiraling, already had Voit making everything worse, and then on top of that, you get scenes like this where they're just full-on abusing suspects like there's no consequences at all. And I mean, there really aren't. And that's what makes it crazy. It's not even hidden, it's not subtle, it's one of those, it's not an accidental bad decision. They know exactly what they're doing. That's why I had to include this one separately, because this is not just tempers were high. This is the show flat out showing you cops beating people for answers and kind of moving on like, well, that got the job done. And again, this is what Chicago PD always plays with. It wants you to be so locked in on saving Diego that you don't go stop. Wait, why are we letting these people act like this? Beating up suspects? No. Moving on to number 4, we have Voit shooting the man behind Alinsky's murder, and this one's crazy. Because with Justin's killer, Voit was emotional and furious, but with the man behind Alinsky's murder, it felt even darker in a different way. It felt calm, it felt deliberate, like planned murder. Alinsky was one of the most important people in Voigt's life, so obviously that loss hit hard. But again, this is where Chicago PD goes too far with Voit. The show gives him so much pain and rage that it almost wants the audience to accept whatever comes next with no regards to the rules. That is not justice, that is revenge, and that's why this one stands out. It's one of those moments where the show fully stops pretending Voit is just rough around the edges and reminds you that no, this man can be terrifying. Number 3, we have Antonio nearly taking Popo's eye out. Yeah, crazy. This one had to be here because when people talk about Chicago PD being unhinged, this is one of the first scenes that comes up. Antonio is desperate over Diego, Popo is sitting there acting untouchable, and Antonio basically gets pushed to the point where he's about to do something completely insane. So he's about to gouge this guy's eye out, right? And the crazy part is Voit and Halstead are just there, and Voit's pushing him the whole time instead of telling him to not do something that could possibly put his entire career in jeopardy. He's telling him, nah bro, do it, do what you gotta do, it's your kid on the line. Like the actual cops that they're not going to cover for them, they're not even here yet and they're on the way, so he's telling him just do what you got to do before, and we can just say it happened in the gunfight and he had a knife or whatever. Antonio's supposed to be one of those guys who still has a conscience, still has a line, still wants to believe being a cop means something. And in this moment, that all just starts to fade away. He's ready to go way past anything that could ever be justified. And let's be real, if you're interrogating someone in an actual interrogation room where he should have been interrogated, yeah, gouging a guy's eye out, you're getting life or something. Number 2, we have Voit forcing Kevin Bingham to dig his own grave and then killing him. This is peak dark Voit right here. Justin's death broke him, and once that happened, there was no chance he was ever going to let the system handle it. You already knew where this was heading. The second his son died, all knew somebody was going to pay for it through the Voit way, and that's exactly what happens. He tracks Bingham down, he forces him to dig his own grave, and then kills him. Like bro, that is not even crossing the line anymore. Line is fully gone. That line is not even in the same postal code, zip code at that point, not even in the same state. And that's what makes it so memorable. It's how cold it feels. This isn't sloppy, it's not chaotic. It feels personal, quiet, and like Voigt's personal vendetta. Voit isn't acting like a cop, he's acting like a father who decided revenge mattered more than anything else. I just want to point out the fact that they never get their badge taken away, like I don't get it. And Chicago PD knows how big that moment is too, because once you see Voit do that, you can never fully pretend he's just some tough cop who bends the rules. No, this man will straight up become judge, jury, and executioner if he thinks the situation calls for it, and that's why it had to be near the top. Before we get to number 1, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and comment what you want to see next. Anyways, at number 1, we have Voit, Halstead, and Upton covering up Roy Walton's death. And yeah, I think this is number 1 because it's not just one person snapping, it's multiple people going along with something they all knew is wrong. That's what makes it even darker, because when Roy Walton dies, this whole thing turns into a mess of lies, cover-ups, panic, and everybody trying to protect themselves and each other. And that's really Chicago PD at its darkest. Not just one crazy interrogation scene or one revenge killing, but a full situation where cops know something terrible happened, and instead of doing the right thing and reporting it and doing it through the process, they start burying it and hiding it, literally and figuratively. And that's why this one feels bigger than the others. It shows how far the rot spreads. It's not just Voit being Voit, it's the people around him getting dragged into the same mindset where the truth becomes optional as long as they can survive the fallout and in their head get justice or their own version of justice in the end. So yeah, that's number 1. So these are 10 times Chicago PD went way too far. Let me know what you think. Let me know if something else could have made the list, because this show is actually ridiculous when you stop and think about it. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and comment down below what you want to see next. Peace.